She flew away from abuse, only to discover an incredible ally, a mafia boss's hidden connection. Amanda wiped the counter with a nearly empty rag, the scent of frying oil lingering in the air like a bittersweet reminder of her new life. For weeks, she slipped into the familiar routine of being a waitress at Betty's Diner, a haven of comfort amidst her stormy past. Every clatter of dishes and hum of conversation filled her with a strange sense of security. Yet beneath that surface, her heart wrestled with fears. Could she fully escape the clenches of her previous life, torn from the hands of someone who nearly drowned her hopes? She clung to each shift, determined not to look back, even as the scars whispered her story. In a small town where everyone knew each other's name, Leo was an enigma. He entered the diner with a presence that turned heads, his charismatic smirk warming the room more than the coffee did. Though he was just another customer, his thoughtful tips and respectful demeanor set him apart. But still, doubt clawed at her insides. Should she trust someone again? Should she even look at him? She could feel her heart racing, torn between intrigue and stubborn hesitation. Her mind was a constant struggle, screaming for freshness while being shackled by the past. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Leo's presence faded from her thoughts as she focused on the diner's patrons, her friends, wallowing under the weight of their own struggles. When a politician's shadow loomed over Betty's Diner, the news struck Amanda harder than any blow from her past. The promise of a luxury hotel shattered the only place that felt like home. Rage bubbled in her throat, mixing with the fear of her friends losing what little they had left. Where was the justice in that? But how could she fight back? The memories of her abusive relationship surfaced, reminding her of her own powerlessness. Each day, she told herself that she was stronger now, but the inner battle was exhausting. Could she gather enough courage to step into the light, to combat the very essence of the fear that once paralyzed her? A fight for her diner became not just a fight for her friends, but a fight for herself. Yet, that nagging thought persisted: was she strong enough to stand against powerful forces, even with Leo's unexpected guidance? And then, as the tension tightened like a noose around her heart, Amanda discovered something alarming. A dusty old photograph among her grandfather's belongings revealed an undeniable connection that twisted her reality. Leo wasn't just another customer, he belonged to a world that had once entangled her family in corruption and shame. The revelations felt like daggers, thorns of doubt piercing her heart. Was he the ally she needed, or a reminder of the dangers she'd escaped? Panic coursed through her, twisting her stomach as she wrestled with her growing suspicions. In that defining moment, she realized she had to confront her feelings for Leo. Was she strong enough to let him help her, or would the chains of her past drag her down, haunting her every decision? As her co-workers closed in, ready to join the battle, she stood frozen, fear and determination warring within her. The path ahead was foggy, choices lay heavy in the air. How would she move forward? The weight of history pressed down, and Amanda felt it with every breath. Would she rise up from the shadows, or would fear consume her once more? Her journey had barely begun, but the stakes had never felt higher. The diner's bell rang as customers pushed through the door, a ringing reminder of Amanda's current reality. But in her mind, shadows danced, each step of uncertainty fraying her resolve. Leo's face loomed large, emblazoned on her thoughts like a warning sign. Was he merely a distraction, or the key to unlocking herself from the chains of her past? That photograph, riddled with half-formed memories, became a catalyst for her swirling thoughts. Nothing was more crucial than understanding the depths of that connection. As the lunch rush began, Amanda threw herself into the whirlwind of orders and chatter, the routine offering a slight reprieve from her troubling revelations. Each smile she mustered felt like flotsam, desperately clinging to the surface to remain afloat. But Leo watched her from his usual corner, a silent observer, waiting patiently. The way he looked at her, with both sincerity and curiosity, unsettled her more than she'd like to admit. At the end of her shift, when the lingering afternoon sun cast long shadows across the diner, her heart kicked against her ribs. Amanda wiped down the last table, each motion deliberate, trying to forestall her descent into spiraling thoughts. It was time to confront what she didn't understand. Gathering her courage, she decided to approach Leo. Every part of her warned against it, yet an insistent urge pushed her forward. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. His expression was both calming and curious. "Of course. What's on your mind?" The words fell from his lips with an ease that almost disarmed her. Amanda settled into the booth opposite him, the din of the diner fading around her. "I couldn't help but connect the dots between you and my family's past." She hesitated, her breath snagging in her throat, risking the vulnerability that had once frightened her. "Why didn't you tell me?" Leo's brow furrowed slightly, the playful glint in his eyes replaced by something more serious. "I didn't know how," he admitted, his honesty striking a chord within her. "But Amanda, I'm not here for any of that. I want to help you, and I want you to trust me." His words ignited a spark of indignation, a combination of anger and fear. Trusting someone, let alone a man intertwined with her family's darkness, felt like a betrayal to everything she had fought to achieve. A decision loomed. Should she withdraw into herself again, or should she embrace the courage she had been cultivating? "Help me how?" she pressed, voice taut with skepticism, leaking the vulnerability she had just uncovered. "Together, we can fight this," he said, determination threading through his words. "Betty's diner doesn't just matter to you, it's a symbol of what we're standing for: community, resilience. I have the resources to protect it." Her mind traveled in several directions at once. This wasn't merely a fight to save the diner, it was also about redefining who she was becoming. Could she harness that energy, convert it into something that would break the cycle? Everything within her urged caution, yet that fiery instinct to reclaim her life surged to the forefront, but the nagging voice of doubt remained, whispering warnings of betrayal. "Are you really different from everyone else?" she challenged, unease brewing in her stomach. The air shifted, tension thickening between them. Leo held her gaze, his sincerity bolstering her resolve. Whatever his intentions, she saw a window, an opportunity to mold this situation into something that resonated with her newfound strength. Suddenly, amidst the burgeoning resolve, Amanda felt a flicker of hope. Facing her fears became the action she needed, rather than the retreat that had so often defined her. With each passing heartbeat, the realization cemented itself further: she was capable of fighting not just for the diner, but for herself as well. But as she prepared to accept Leo's guidance, a figure loomed at the diner's entrance, sending a chill up her spine. Her past had returned to haunt her, and waiting was no longer an option. The moment to confront her fears was inching closer. Amanda inhaled sharply, knowing she had only one direction to move forward. The stakes were higher than ever, a collision course was set. Would she succumb to the past, or harness the struggle ahead? Only time would tell. The figure at the door was an unwelcome reminder that shadows are harder to escape than they are to face. Amanda's heart raced, the stirrings of familiarity overwhelming her. She squinted against the fading light, struggling to discern the features of this haunting apparition. The moment stretched, but panic jolted her forward. Was it really him? As Amanda stood frozen, Leo's hand reached out, landing gently on hers, anchoring her momentarily in the tumult. "Hey, you alright?" His voice was low, threaded with concern, but she could hardly focus on anything but the looming specter. So close, yet so far. The uninvited figure stepped farther into the diner. Recognition washed over her like ice water. It was her father, the man who had once embodied terror was now scanning the diner with an indifferent expression. She recalled the fear that had paralyzed her youth, the countless nights spent dreading his drunken escapades. A quickened breath reminded her of her resolve. Today would not be a retreat. Her immediate instinct was to flee, to hide in the kitchen or run into the parking lot. But something deeper held her ground. This was her space now, a sanctuary forged through perseverance. Amanda diverted her gaze to Leo, who studied her with an intensity that pulled her back from the abyss. Still gripping her hand, he seemed a steadfast shield against her past tormentor. "Stay with me," he whispered, a request not merely for presence but for strength. With that, she nodded once, the gesture chipping away at the suffocating fear. The realization flickered: she had the power to confront those who dared to disrupt her life. Unlinking her hand from Leo's felt like dropping anchors, but it was necessary. In a single movement, she stood taller, schooling her expression into one of steely defiance. "Dad," she greeted, her voice an unusual fusion of confidence and simmering fury. "What are you doing here?" He smirked, the shadow of a bygone authority lingering in his features, but she noticed the uncertainty in his eyes. "Just passing through," he replied, his tone casual, almost dismissive. "Thought I'd grab a bite." The dismissive word stung, a careless elegance masking the truth. This man would always carry the weight of their fractured history, which was intertwined with regret and anger. "Not here," she asserted, the words firm against the tremors of her past. "This place means more to me than your indulgences ever did." Laughter erupted from a neighboring table, acting as a discernible backdrop to her stillness. The youthfulness of the diners jarred with Amanda's heightened stress, forcing a momentary lapse of the emotional tide. What was supposed to be a simple lunchtime confrontation morphed into something monumental, a reckoning. "Still being dramatic, aren't you?" he replied, the malice lurking just beneath the surface. "You'll always be the little girl who needs rescuing." The sting of his words ricocheted within Amanda, but anger fueled her response. For too long, she had been the girl hiding, the one begging for respect that never came. Her newfound fire pushed back against familiar chains. "No, I'm not," she shot back, the assertion surprising even herself. "I'm standing my ground. You don't own me or this diner." He hesitated, for perhaps the first time, and Amanda seized the moment. She leaned closer, forcing him to meet her unwavering gaze. "You need to leave. And if you ever think to come back into my life, remember that I'm no longer afraid." This declaration rang like a bell, an echo of her transformation. Unwittingly, she formed lines in the sand, her past once looming like a specter now defeated by her cultivated strength, but the fleeting sense of victory morphed into uncertainty. What would his retaliation become? Would he try to undermine her or infiltrate her new reality? Just then, she felt the ground shift, the weight of anticipation thickening the air. Leo stood next to her, a stalwart presence, but Amanda knew the confrontation was only beginning. Suddenly, the door swung open again, introduction of another unknown. How many more disruptions would challenge her claim on herself? As she prepared for whatever lay ahead, her heart thrummed like a wild drumbeat. Would she manage to emerge victorious once more, or had the wheels of fate already begun turning in a direction she couldn't control? The air prickled with tension and questions lingered. Was this the start of something greater or a prelude to her undoing? The door swung wide, revealing a figure cloaked in mystery, radiating an aura that enveloped the diner with a potent mixture of curiosity and alarm. Amanda's heart raced anew, each beat echoed in the silence that followed, amplifying the intensity of her circumstances. Leo remained steadfast beside her, but his tense posture signaled the unease creeping into the air, meriting closer scrutiny of the newcomer. The man who entered was clad in dark attire, sharp and intimidating, yet he moved with a fluid grace that suggested he was accustomed to commanding attention. His eyes scanned the room, landing on Amanda for just an instant before darting back to her father, who wore an expression of confusion edged with wariness. The unspoken tension crackled, compelling all eyes in the diner to flick between them like breathless spectators at a looming showdown. Amanda felt the world around her begin to fragment, her father's arrogance clashing against this stranger's presence, calling into question the foundations of her newfound strength. Would she reclaim her narrative, or had she simply opened the door to more chaos? "Get lost," her father sneered, trying to shake off the threat that wafted through the air like smoke. But the figure didn't flinch. Instead, he strolled toward the bar, his gaze sharp and assessing. "Is that any way to treat an old acquaintance?" The man replied, his voice smooth, almost melodic, contrasting starkly with her father's rising agitation. Amanda could see the subtle flicker of recognition wash over her father, a flicker soon drowned by disdain. "What do you want, Tony?" Her father spat, the venom curling at the corners of his mouth. Amanda's mind whirled, grappling with the implication of the name. Tony, a name she had only heard whispered in hushed tones surrounding rumors of influence and power. A name synonymous with danger, but also with an aura of protection that intrigued her. Steeling herself, Amanda took a step closer to Leo, the touch of his arm offering a fragile tether. "I have every right to be here," she declared, her voice ringing out with the clarity that felt like a bat signal in a dark sky. "What's your stake in this?" Tony turned, his dark eyes piercing into hers, and for a moment, the air crackled with unfiltered energy. "I'm here because your father has played his cards poorly, and I'm interested in a new deal." The diner around them fell eerily quiet, patrons animated in their own conversations now frozen, caught in the gravitational pull of this unexpected confrontation. Amanda sensed the visceral energy, the thrill of a challenge awakening something deep within her. "Your deals have caused enough pain," Amanda interjected, the passion surging like fire. "If my father wants to change, he needs to do it on his own without strings attached." "Is that so?" Tony retorted, his lips curling slightly. "Perhaps you underestimate the game at play." Her resolve strengthened, propelled by the revelations of her own growth. She had escaped the demise of her previous existence, hard-earned and forged through struggle. Now, a door had opened, revealing an opportunity to expand her influence, rather than shrink into fear. "This isn't just about him," Leo broke in, his voice low and fierce. "It's about Amanda's future." Amanda's breath hitched, the weight of loyalty and fear intertwining. She wasn't a child anymore, no longer defined by her father's failures, nor should she become a pawn in Tony's schemes. The moment held the pulse of her evolution, a precarious choice resting on her shoulders. Did she fight alongside Leo, embracing the complexity of darkness, or dismantle all ties to her father's past at whatever cost? "Leave," she commanded, summoning every ounce of fierceness. "Your games end today." Tony's expression morphed, the light fading for just a moment, revealing a flicker of respect mingling with irritation. "We'll see, Amanda. Remember, freedom isn't without its price." As he strode toward the door, her heart thudded with unanswered questions. What was its cost? And could she afford to stand resolute even as shadows closed in around her? The clash of wills ricocheted in her mind, igniting a new fire within her. In that moment, Amanda realized, she was on the precipice of transforming her storm into a guiding force. But as a daunting realization settled in, it beckoned forth a new chapter in her journey where deeper stakes awaited. What would her choice mean for her future, especially with adversaries both familiar and foreign, and how could she navigate a world full of powerful alliances? The diner felt more charged than ever, the air thick with unspoken possibilities. As the door swung closed, Amanda's resolve solidified. She would reclaim her story and make the decisions that truly mattered. An inevitable confrontation loomed, a test of her newfound strength, waiting just around the corner. Amanda stood at the threshold of her reality, the weight of Tony's words settling deep within her. She could still feel the vibrations of confrontation humming in the air, pulses of uncertainty threaded with the thrill of autonomy. She had borne the scars of her father's choices, but now she glimpsed a path illuminated by her resolve. Yet, the prospect of clawing her way into the darkness, to reclaim her narrative as she had promised, felt as overwhelming as it felt liberating. It demanded clarity and strength she wasn't entirely sure she possessed. Did she truly understand the intricacies of the game the world had laid out before her? As Leo stood beside her, his expression one of fierce protection but also concern, Amanda's internal dialogue shifted. Every confrontation, every pulse of adrenaline had crystallized a vision. She wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for a future unshackled from her father's remnants. "Are you all right?" Leo asked, his voice a low whisper cutting through her tumultuous thoughts. "Yeah, I'm okay," she replied, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. Just moments ago, she had commanded an exit for Tony not merely with words, but with raw conviction. Yet, the still space around them now felt devoid of that power, leaving her questioning whether the flood of adrenaline would carry her past this moment or wash her away back into complacency. "Are you sure we should just let him go?" he pressed, scrutinizing her with those steady eyes that conveyed not just worry but a desire to align with her proactive spirit. Amanda weighed the possibilities. Letting Tony walk meant allowing a potentially manipulative force to regroup, but confronting him could mean entering a labyrinthine game that could cost them dearly before it ever bore fruit. "I refuse to go backward, Leo. Today's not about Tony, it's about understanding what I need to move forward. I want to map out my own future, even if it's tangled in the complexities of the past." As they left the diner, the sunlight felt stark against her skin, its brightness a sharp contrast to the shadow of the confrontation they just experienced. The street bustled with life, a rhythmic cadence of footsteps and distant laughter that struck a jarring counterpoint to the heaviness pressing in on her thoughts. "Amanda," Leo interjected, taking her gently by the arm to get her full attention. "We have to dig into who Tony really is. If he is as connected as rumors suggest, he won't stop until he has something to leverage against your father and you're caught in the crossfire." "I know," she responded, determination igniting anew. "But every piece of information about him could be a weapon or a tool. I need to understand him as much as my father's world. I'll need to build alliances that might even surprise me." That line of thought was tantalizing yet daunting. Did she possess the acumen to engage with figures like Tony? Unknown territories lay ahead, she could feel her instincts honing, desperate to sharpen yet dulled by her past. "Let's start with the contacts I have," Leo suggested, already opening his phone, but Amanda stayed his hand. "No. First, let me think. I've always been reactive. If I want to step into this with intent, I've got to own my strategy. I need to learn to observe first before I jump. This is my future we're talking about." Her resolve resonated through her body, she felt the potential within her pulse. Each practical step toward gathering insights elevated her self-awareness, the clarity of purpose overshadowed the shadows of her father's legacy. "Fine," Leo acquiesced, admiration reluctantly swelling in his tone. "What's next?" "A quiet reconnaissance. We'll start with where Tony might gather information. I'll need to see the roots of his influence before I confront him again." She excused herself into a nearby coffee shop, the scent of brewing beans filling the air, a comfort that felt like a breath of fresh resolve. As she settled in at a corner table, she eyed the room, keenly aware of the varied patrons all were pieces in a larger puzzle she yearned to decode. Her heart thudded, a pulse of both anxiety and excitement coursing through her. She wasn't just skimming the surface, she was diving into the depths of the game, setting her strategy. If she emerged armed with knowledge, she could redefine her predicament, untangle herself from past ties, and, more importantly, create a new future independent of the shadows around her. But even as Amanda planned her next steps, a familiar face entered the cafe, drawing her gaze. Panic flared the last person she expected to see on this exploratory path, her father. Suddenly, the past hadn't just whispered, it had stepped into the present, arms wide open, beckoning her to confront the very core of her fears. Amanda inhaled sharply, wondering if this unexpected meeting would reinforce her burgeoning strength or shatter her resolve entirely. Amanda's pulse quickened, the meeting her eyes had just absorbed morphing into an unbearable weight on her chest. There he was, her father, stepping into the coffee shop with the kind of brusque confidence that had once commanded respect and fear. Years of avoidance had built a thick wall between them, yet in this instant, she felt that wall shuddering as she knew she needed to engage. Her instinct screamed at her to flee, to abandon her coffee and slip into the anonymity of the streets outside. But that was the old Amanda. The woman determined to carve out her own identity could not hide from her past, she had to confront it, dissect it, and use it to sharpen her ascent. She focused on her breathing, forcing herself to be present, if only for the moment. As he entered the cafe, Amanda tried to conceal her emotions behind a veil of casual observation. He scanned the room with a practiced nonchalance, his commanding presence inadvertently drawing the attention of others. She studied his posture, the slight lean illustrating a man assured of his power. He gestured dismissively to a couple patrons who avoided eye contact, while the barista practically tripped over himself to fulfill her father's order. Amanda was struck by the twist of familiarity mixed with animosity. This man was more than memory, he represented the haunting legacy she was eager to escape from yet could not fully deny. The intimate memories collided with the harsh realities of his actions for her to confront. Could she use this communion of past and present to her advantage? Or would it trap her deeper into his webs? As he approached the coffee counter, Amanda felt an inexplicable urge to act intentionally. She picked up her phone and, in one fluid motion, brought up the draft of her strategy she had been contemplating before he arrived. If Tony was a player she needed to understand, her father was the connecting thread to everything she had been trying to dismantle. "Are you seeing this?" Leo's voice broke through her thoughts, low and cautious. He had moved closer, his concern palpable. His steady presence reminded her of the path she had undertaken. "Wait," Amanda whispered. "Just let me do this." Rising from her seat, she approached her father deliberately, each step an exercise in reclaiming her agency. She had prepared herself for this moment, even if she hadn't anticipated the timing. "Dad," she started, her voice calculated, yet carrying an undertone of resolve, "this is unexpected." He turned slowly, his expression shifting from surprise to that ever-familiar veneer of aloofness. "Amanda. I wasn't aware you frequented this cafe," he said, his tone a mixture of curiosity and indifference. "I'm working on things. You know, making my own choices," she replied, testing the waters of their interaction. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Interesting. You've always had a knack for being stubborn." "Stubbornness is often mistaken for strength," she countered, her composure sharpening. "There's a lot about me you wouldn't understand." That caught him off guard, but Amanda pressed on. He had brooked no challenges from her in the past. Would he fold now? "Tell me, Amanda," he said slowly, "what is it you think you've stumbled into? You have no clue what you're dealing with." "I think I have an idea," she replied, voice steady. "And I want your answers." This was a strategic gamble. She couldn't afford to lose more than she stood to gain. Amanda needed to know more about the deeper connections swirling in the background, especially about Tony, who might have ties to her father's enterprises. For a moment, silence stretched between them, the weight of unsaid words thickening the air. Amanda was a warrior confronting a general, and she felt emboldened. Then, her father's expression shifted, revealing something she had rarely seen, a flicker of respect coiling around curiosity. "If it's information you want, you may find it nowhere else." Her heart raced. Perhaps this was the opportunity she needed, an unexpected alliance teetering on the edge of wariness. The past could fuel her, could provide the keys needed for her future. "Let's talk," she said, inviting him to step further into her design. As they took their seats at a small table, the conversation veered off into dangerous territories, both thrilling and suffocating, but far from the shadows of his exchanges hid the lurking presence of Tony, the impending storm threading its way into her newfound resolve. Would this meeting pave a clearer path to understanding or thrust her deeper into peril? Amanda felt that tug of fear wrestle against her determination. What she started today could alter everything. Little did she know that decisions made in this moment would severely ripple through the layers of alliances she wasn't ready to own. She leaned in, determination etched in her features. "I need to know what you've done, who you've involved, and how gravely Tony represents a threat to everything I'm building." The chessboard had been laid out. In that cafe, she suddenly comprehended more than just strategy. She was uncovering resilience, transmuting fear into a chilling anticipation of the impending confrontation with Tony that would demand everything she had cultivated within herself. He smiled, but for Amanda, the game had only evidently begun. As she prepared for the revelation to unfold, questioning if she could ever mend what had long been severed. She faced a dawning realization that she was stepping into the heart of darkness, ready to emerge victorious or utterly shattered. The weight of the words she had just spoken lingered in the air, an electrifying charge that seemed to suspend time around them. Amanda watched as her father leaned back slightly, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth as if he had been waiting for this very exchange. "Threats are a part of life, Amanda," he began, his voice smooth but edged with irony. "Navigating them is where true strength lies. You think you can dismantle what I've built without understanding its foundations?" Every pulse in her body urged her to recoil at his disdain, but instead, she leaned further into the conversation, her stomach nodding with a mix of defiance and determination. "If your empire is built on fear and manipulation, then I'd rather not stand on shaky ground." His eyes narrowed, surprise flickering across his face. "You talk like you know more than you realize," he shot back, his composure subtly cracking. "Tony isn't just a threat, Amanda. He is a player who knows how to leverage connections that I wouldn't ever let go." As he spoke, Amanda's mind buzzed with calculations. This man, molded by his power, saw her as an extension of his legacy rather than an equal. But could she flip that perspective to her advantage? There was inside her a whisper of resolve, knowing things would unfold her story and perhaps lead her to unexpected dominion. "Then enlighten me," she challenged, setting the tone for a negotiation instead of a familial confrontation. "You want my attention? Start talking." He chuckled darkly, impressed. "Entering this arena without armor could leave you flayed raw, little girl. But let us see what you're made of." The lighting in the cafe dimmed slightly, creating a more clandestine atmosphere, as if the walls leaned in to eavesdrop on this dangerous exchange. The rich smell of coffee seemed muted against the intrigue brewing in their conversation. Her heart hammered, but she felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through her. With each word she uttered, she was mixing vulnerability and strength. "What are Tony's connections to you? I know he runs with people who think they're untouchable, but there's always a way to topple the king." For the first time, he looked taken aback. "You've done your homework," he replied, studying her with newfound interest. "He's a reliable partner. But like any alliance, it's based on mutual benefit. He delivers results, and I ensure the profits keep rolling." Amanda's mind raced, drawing friction between disgust for his callousness and admiration for his shrewdness. "And what happens when a partner becomes a liability?" "There's no liability in my world," he replied coolly, measuring her reaction as if she were a pawn on his chessboard. "You uncover vulnerabilities, exploit them. That's how you maintain control." "A lesson in manipulation," she remarked, parting her lips to reveal the hollow acceptance simmering beneath her words. "Is that all I am to you, a pawn covered in past scars, sent forth into a game you created?" He shrugged, the indifference in his demeanor sharpening. "That's your perception. You want power, you need to understand its currency. The real question is, are you willing to play? Tony can either help you, or he can ruin you." Her pulse surged. He wasn't backing down, leaving her with an ultimatum that dripped with the gravity of her choices. She needed to decide how to navigate the murky waters ahead, swimming through a sea of it that included her father's oppressive legacy and Tony's treachery. "Tony might think he's invincible," she said, her voice dropping to a low murmur, "but your empire is riddled with tales of anyone who thought they were untouchable." "Brilliant. But remember, the ants that crawl have never seen the spider's web," he countered, gaze piercing into her as if setting an emotional trap. Each word became a thread, weaving a complex fabric of distrust and potential alliance. For once, she felt not afraid, but emboldened, her father's history clashing against her desire to become her own person in this dangerous game. Just as tension danced across the table, Amanda noticed a flicker of movement in the cafe's entrance. Her heart skipped, instinctively turning toward the commotion. A stranger walked in, cloaked in shadows that seemed to stretch ominously. With a pulse racing to match her father's corporate cunning, she wondered, was this the leverage she needed to take her plans to the next level? "What is he doing here?" she questioned, her tone laced with urgency, igniting the fire of her instincts. Her father's eyes sharpened, calculation flashing before his face. "Ah, it seems our little chat has drawn some unwanted attention. Time to show your cards, Amanda. It's not just me you need to navigate, the real game is just beginning." As the new player entered her sphere, Amanda felt the weight of destiny settling over her. Could she manipulate the game in her favor? It was time to claim victory, but the road was fraught with unseen dangers, and the stakes just became lethal. The cafe door swung open, ushering in a crisp gust that sent ripples through Amanda's thoughts. The stranger cut through the air with an air of authority that clashed against the shadowy anonymity of the establishment. Every instinct in her pulsed with an urgency she had never before experienced. This wasn't just another patron, the tension was palpable, electrifying the otherwise mundane atmosphere. Her father remained unflinching, exuding the confidence of someone who thrived in the unpredictable world they inhabited. Amanda felt comparative insecurities swell within. Yet, there was a flicker of fire sparking inside her, a newfound determination to seize control of her narrative. This man entering their world could very well be the turning point she needed. As the stranger approached, Amanda noticed his attire, tailored, understated perfection. He possessed an enigmatic presence that seemed to draw everyone's eyes, including her father's. The weight of her father's silence was deafening, providing her with an uneasy sense of the importance of this encounter. "What do you want?" Amanda didn't hide her suspicion, it rolled off her tongue in a cool dismissal, an echo of her father's own bravado. The man came nearer, his presence intensifying the air around her. "I heard you were asking questions, Amanda. Questions that could get you answers or land you in troubling waters," he said, a smirk gracing his chiseled features. Her father's posture shifted subtly, signaling a shift in dynamics. There was a crackle of tension in the air, a silent agreement between the two men that she was not included in. It was unsettling, yet Amanda couldn't look away. "What do you know about Tony and my father?" Her voice carried an edge, confrontational, testing this unexpected ally or adversary. "More than you can imagine," he said, his dark eyes locking onto hers. "I respect your fire. You're not like the others. They crumble when faced with the reality of this industry. You seem alive." Amanda couldn't help but feel drawn to his words, a magnetic pull that resonated with her desire to break the chains of her father's legacy. She was nuanced, complicated, an intricate puzzle waiting to be solved. "So, if I wanted to strike back, what's in it for you?" The question slid out with practiced ease. Behind it lay the deeper urgency, each query like a stepping stone to her own empowerment. That he paused, scanning the cafe with a guarded expression. "Standing against Tony means risking it all, but there's opportunity in chaos. Power shifts. If you play your cards right, you could unseat a major player and I could benefit from that shift." Amanda's mind raced. This was no ordinary proposition, this was a tangled web of allies and enemies. Could she trust a man whose strength was rooted in shadows? She leaned in, drawn by an instinct that didn't demand answers, only willingness to adapt. "What's your name?" "Rafe," he replied, his voice low and steady, and just like that he had transitioned from a stranger to a prospective ally. Conversations about Tony, her father's dealings, and leverage spiraled into a whirlwind of strategy and possibility. Rafe offered insights into the labyrinthine world of alliance and betrayal, revealing hidden depths of potential she hadn't yet considered. With every exchange, she felt her own awareness pulsing, nurturing her ambitions and grating against her father's authoritarian grip. "Power isn't just taken, it's navigated," Rafe instructed, his tone a cocktail of confidence and caution. "Use your father's insights against him. Learn the weaknesses of his adversaries, but more importantly, learn the strengths that lie within you." As the conversation deepened, Amanda felt boundaries blurring: her father's empire, her potential alliances, and her role within this machination. She was cautiously balancing on a tightrope, the guiding wind that would either secure her ascent or cause her downfall. Just as she began to introspect on Rafe's counsel, the familiarity of Tony's name sliced through the dialogue. Her father's irritation broke the focus. He turned. Body taut with unresolved tension. "You're stepping into territory you might not fully comprehend," he warned, voice low yet laced with a thinly veiled threat. Amanda's heart raced at the reality of her new path. Rafe had already extended an invitation into the game, yet now she could feel the direct embodiment of conflict, an intersection of choices thick enough to choke on. "Then I suppose it's time for me to understand," she responded, a steely determination threading her voice. "Each move is a lesson that I'm ready to learn." With newfound resolve crystallizing within her, she felt the layer of influence and power beginning to peel away, exposing the raw potential of who she was and who she could become. Yet, the dance with her father loomed like a shadow. How far would she go to carve her own identity? In that moment, she sensed that the real challenge was just beginning. With both her father and Rafe scheming around her, she teetered at the edge of an intricate duel where the stakes were obscured, and clarity was lost amid ambition. The path ahead loomed darkly, with hidden adversaries and uncharted allegiances flickering just beyond reach. A question surfaced, raw and urgent. Could this fragile alliance with Rafe lead to an understanding of her own power, or would it entangle her deeper in the game's deceptive fabric? As Amanda considered the next steps, the answer danced just out of reach. In the next chapter, she would have to confront the consequences of her growing agency and the hidden allies in her father's realm. Amanda's thoughts churned as she stepped out of the cafe, the brisk air wrapping around her like a shroud. Rafe's words echoed in her mind, compelling her to confront the unsettling entanglement of loyalties and aspirations that lay before her. She was no longer just the daughter of a powerful man, she was stepping into a game sprawling with complexities, a space where her choices would reshape her world. She paused at the corner of the street, the city pulsing with life around her. Each honk, each shout, felt like a reminder of the noise that came with empire, the kind of noise she intended to navigate. Rafe's confidence had awakened something in her, a reckless urge to draw a line between who she'd been molded to be and who she was meant to become. What did it mean to harness her own strength? The sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting long shadows that mirrored her darkening thoughts about her father. She had long played the dutiful daughter, deferring to his authority, but now that role felt constricting and hollow. She paced slowly, feeling the weight of the deliberation pressing against her chest. Confronting Tony wasn't just an external battle, it was an internal one, too. She needed to understand the mechanics of the world she had inherited, its risks and rewards, layers of trust and betrayal that wove through every relationship. As she walked, the clarity that Rafe had imparted began to bloom. Each step was a pledge to exploring her own competencies, questioning whether she could match wits with people like Tony. What did she know about deception? About manipulation? Her previous life had been about preservation, a delicate balance of maintaining the facade her father demanded. But she was no longer willing to be a pawn. Strategizing in silence, she envisioned scenarios where she could exploit her father's reliance on secrecy and competence. Learning his patterns would be critical to leverage his power as her own. Suddenly, a memory flickered in her mind, her mother's well-placed advice to always observe before acting. "Knowledge is your sword," she'd said, her voice steady, her eyes fierce. Amanda had dismissed it at the time, caught up in her naive dreams of escape. Now, she felt a vital connection to her mother's wisdom, seeing how it could forge her path. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of the reverie. It was a message from Rafe: "We need to meet. The chessboard is shifting to our advantage. Don't let the pieces move without you." An invitation wrapped in urgency, calling her to step further into the fray. Yet, a flicker of doubt coursed through her veins. Was she ready to embrace this dance with danger? The choice presented itself like an unsteady bridge, jaded with uncertainty, yet beckoning her forward. Each heartbeat echoed a restless rhythm: step forward or retreat. She practiced her response in her mind: if she turned away now, the opportunity might vanish. With a steely resolve, she typed back, "I'm in." Where and when? Her fingers hovered over the screen, quickening with exhilarated fear, compounded by the gravity of her decision. As she moved toward the designated location, her confidence surged, each step becoming more assured. Yet, lurking beneath the surface was the weight of expectation. Would she emerge from this transformation with the power she sought, or risk losing herself in the machinations at play? When she reached the abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city, a palpable tension filled the air. She found Rafe standing at the entrance, his expression a mix of encouragement and challenge. The moment felt charged, a prelude to a pivotal confrontation. "Amanda," he said, his voice low, "are you ready to redefine the terms of this game?" Her heart raced, both thrilled and terrified. "I am. Let us begin." But as they stepped inside, the dimly lit interior unraveling like a secret, a thought clawed at her. Every power play carries a cost. As they crossed the threshold, she couldn't shake the feeling that the price for her new agency might be higher than she ever anticipated, with a new path unfolding. Amanda felt the pull of conflict overshadowing her triumph. Would her choices lead to liberation or entrapment? The stage was set, and she was about to face the first of many tests, each twist of fate drawing her deeper into the labyrinth. Would she emerge victorious, or would she cede control to powers far more menacing? The intrigue of the uncharted territory ahead vibrated in the air like an unspoken promise, urging her forward into whatever awaited. Amanda stood inside the dimly lit warehouse, bracing herself against the steady thrum of her heart. The air around her felt thick, charged with the impending confrontation that awaited. As she locked eyes with Rafe, the gravity of her choices settled over her. This was a pivotal moment in a game she was learning to navigate, a game with rules she had yet to decipher fully. "Are you ready to redefine the terms of this game?" Rafe's steady gaze bore into her, a combination of challenge and support that ignited her resolve. "I am. Let us begin," she declared, her voice echoing against the concrete walls, slicing through her lingering fears. This statement marked a departure from the hesitant woman she had been just months ago, the girl who flinched at shadows and recoiled at confrontation. Together, they stepped further into the interior, where a makeshift table served as the battleground for their strategy session. As they settled into their focus, Amanda felt the nerves transform into a potent cocktail of determination and ambition. This was her moment to shatter the chains of her past and forge an identity distinct from her father's oppressive influence. "Before we meet with Tony again, we need to gather information," Rafe suggested, his tone embodying a calculated resolve. "Dig into his network and draw out weaknesses." Understanding began to churn within Amanda. "So, we turn the tables," she replied, enthusiasm shining in her expression. "It's time I become an architect of my own legacy." Amanda spent the hours in the warehouse sketching connections and mapping out influential figures linked to both her father and Tony. The threads of the past, each representing a separate transaction or allegiance, began to coalesce into a tapestry of opportunity. With each stroke, her confidence burgeoned. This was the clarity she had yearned for, a strategic outlook bursting with possibilities. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, pulling her into the present. An urgent text from Leo read, "I found out Tony's next move could disrupt the diner. We must act fast." Instinctively, Amanda felt the sparks of anxiety flare, but they were quickly quelled by the fire of determination she had stoked over the past few hours. "Rafe," she said, her voice steady, "we have a lead that could give us an edge over Tony." "There's power in timing," Rafe remarked, nodding in recognition of their shared urgency. "Then let us harness that power," she asserted, her sense of purpose crystallizing. By the time they exited the warehouse, night had settled over the city, a cloak enveloping their clandestine actions. Amanda felt a thrill course through her veins as they prepared for the showdown with Tony. It would be her first substantial act not derived from fear but from an unyielding desire for control. As they approached the designated meeting spot, a local bar known for its discreet corners, Amanda practiced the resilience she had built. No longer would she flinch or shy away, instead, she would confront Tony with the strength of her newfound identity. Inside, the bar pulsed with life, dim lighting cradling shadows of laughter and murmurs. Her gaze flitted through the crowd until it settled on Tony, who lounged against the bar with an aura of confidence that belied the danger he posed. "Remember," Rafe whispered as they approached. "Stay empowered. Don't let his presence shake you." "Yes," Amanda breathed, the weight of purpose anchoring her resolve. Tony turned at their approaching footsteps, interest piqued by the audacity of her entrance. He smirked, an arrogance clothed in familiarity. "Amanda. You're audacious to think you could walk in here without consequence." She met his gaze with steady defiance. "You underestimate my capacity for navigating chaos, Tony." Together, she and Rafe engaged him in a strategic conversation, presenting ideas that spun webs of intrigue and vulnerability around him. They dealt in truths half-spoken, manipulating the narrative to draw him into their trap. Information flowed freely from his lips, a testament to his arrogance. He believed he was in control, but Amanda was learning to exploit the gaps. The interplay of power shifted gradually, until Amanda offered an ultimatum, one that highlighted not just her newly acquired authority, but the gravity of choices that governed this chaotic world. "You think you hold the reins, but I've already forged alliances that could shift the balance here. Either you play fair, or I'll expose you for who you truly are." Silence stretched between them, laden with the weight of their mutual respect and Tony's realization of her transformation. The uncertainty in his expression was a reward, a recognition that she was no longer the scared girl hidden in shadows. "Interesting strategy, Amanda," Tony conceded, respect fluttering beneath the surface. "Let us see how far this game leads you." As they departed the bar, Amanda felt a buoyancy in her spirit. She had stepped into the labyrinth of her grandfather's world, challenged her father's reputation, and faced Tony with an empowered demeanor. Each action, each flicker of confidence, carved a smoother path toward her own triumph. "I never imagined you could rally so powerfully against him," Rafe admitted, admiration threading through his tone. "I've defined my worth," she replied firmly, pride radiating from her as the evening wind rustled through the streets. "And I won't stop until I own the narrative." In that moment, Amanda truly understood the magnitude of her growth. She was not merely a victim of circumstance, she was crafting her legacy, each development signaling palpable strength. Her past no longer defined her, it served as a foundation upon which she built her future. As the stars twinkled above, Amanda realized that she was not just capable of confronting the shadows of her lineage, she was determined to conquer them. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Every action counts. Comment your reactions and theories about this conclusion, we want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful tale of transformation. Don't wait even one more second to support our journey.